So you can really tell that the Battlefield 6 open beta has wrapped up for a bit here because, well, the whole community appears to be on social media instead, getting locked into heated debates, dick swinging, and just general shit flinging sessions. Because of course they are, that's what the Battlefield community does. I mean, I love you guys, but damn, some of the arguments I see you guys get into are comical at best. But we are now only a mere weekend into Battlefield 6's long story as a game on the market, and we've already landed ourselves smack bang into easily one of the most viral cheating scandals and debates I think I've ever seen in online gaming. And look, originally, I was gonna leave this topic aside and not touch it. There's already a lot of creators doing the rounds talking about it already, doing deep forensic dives on footage, and at this point, people are just so entrenched in their confirmation bias that shifting opinions is going to be pretty bloody difficult. But then I went, nah, hang on, this is actually an important conversation that needs to happen, especially given that Battlefield 6 is going to see a ton of new faces come to this community, exposing the existing community to some new things here. And the angle that I actually want to take today is one that I've not seen many, if any, content creators take as of yet. So yeah, let's dive into it. I'm not going to do a deep dive or a direct review of any of the clips that have been doing the rounds as of late. Many have already done it to death and have done way better than what I could have done myself, including Ender's, whose breakdown I've linked in the description down below for those who are interested. But I do want to make my position abundantly clear here. None of the clips that are doing the rounds at the moment and are garnering most of the conversation are concrete signs of blatant cheating, in my opinion. Yes, I will admit, they're nutty, and yes, they are of the highest echelon of what is actually possible in a video game, to the point where yes, they look suspicious if you have an untrained eye. But no, they aren't cheating in my opinion. If you slow the footage down, the clips in question are riddled with over and under extensions and corrections on any flicks that the players do. The tracking isn't perfectly accurate and doesn't reflect that of a hard or a soft aimbot, and the instances in which the players behind these clips are really flicking to targets who are behind cover is done so based on map knowledge, positioning, and awareness granted by the minimap and UI elements in-game. There is nothing that I've seen here so far that is inexplainable nor impossible with hundreds of hours in FPS games, in aim trainers, and just an insane caressing by the TISM. Everything is explainable and there's no hard evidence to suggest otherwise. And just to be 100% clear, in any of the cases that have been brought up so far, if hard evidence does come out that proves cheating, then I'll happily cede and eat my words here. But that is my position that we've seen so far. And that position may come as a bit of a surprise to a few of you here as well. But in all seriousness, guys, I actually don't think we're seeing a cheating epidemic running amok in Battlefield 6's open beta like many suggest we do. We know that the Javelin anti-cheat has already managed to squash 330,000 attempts of cheating over the course of the first beta weekend. It makes no sense that players like this, who are able to pull clips of them absolutely giga-farming, are able to sneak through if that is the kind of performance they're putting in. I mean, these videos are going viral. If they genuinely were suspicious, I'd feel like they'd be manually banned at this point if there was a case to answer for. No, in my opinion, what we're actually seeing here instead is Battlefield 6 suffering from the nature of its own success. And while yes, that means exposure to more cheaters, it also means an exposure to an average player skill that greatly exceeds that of the majority of the Battlefield player base. And it's something that I want to use as a bit of a catalyst to start a wider conversation here today. One that extends beyond the confines of the clips that would have been doing the rounds lately, and maybe to one that illustrates a bit more of a core problem with the Battlefield community at times. You see, folks, Battlefield 6 is the first Battlefield game that we've gotten for a very long time now that actually means something to the broader FPS fan base. You know, the long isolated from the industry Battlefield player base that have been stuck with Battlefield 5 and 2042 for a while now are now finally being exposed to communities and players that they themselves are refugees from. And with that, we're seeing players who represent what top tier performance in other first-person shooter games beyond Battlefield look like. And we're seeing how that interacts with the Battlefield franchise as well. Battlefields 5 and 2042, they held on to a core community, and some of the Battlefield diehards remained with those games, but they never appealed to the mass market due to the fact that they just were not great games. Battlefield 6, on the other hand, is breaking records. On Steam alone, it broke Call of Duty's concurrent player count record of all time, while it was in beta, for Christ's sake. It is the first Battlefield game that means a damn to people who aren't already deeply entrenched in the Battlefield space, which means means a bunch of gamers that normally find themselves within far more competitively minded games like Quake, Apex Legends, Counter-Strike, Valorant, Halo, COD, the works. Games where aim training, whether it be flicks, tracking, or a combination of both, is highly prevalent. I hate to break it to you, Battlefield community, but these are communities that have spent far more time than we ever have combined in perfecting skills, aim training, and reaching the absolute peak of what is possible in a first-person shooter game from a skill perspective. The games in question demand that of said players, what can I say? The average Battlefield player, on the other hand, will typically jump in, blow shit up, LARP around with their buddies, and then log off for the night, which is fine. That's how a lot of people enjoy the game, and that's well within your right to do so. Battlefield pretty much caters to that kind of play style. But as I said, Battlefield this time is not just attracting the old school Battlefield fans. It's attracting a whole lot of other communities who aren't necessarily happy with their game of choice right now and are looking for something new. People who are extremely gifted in the first-person shooter space. People who have the mechanical skill that when they bring to Battlefield will farm something fierce. And this is where I probably drop the hottest take of the entire video here, right? If you're somebody who plays a game like Battlefield at a really surface level and has no aspirations to excel at a side of the game, say infantry combat, that other players in question can do, you probably aren't in a position of educated authority to make a definitive, objective statement around whether they're cheating or not by looking at their gameplay footage, unless they are physically breaking the game and flying around. And I don't say this to be a dick either, and not to invalidate people's thoughts, but it's similar to how I wouldn't put myself up to be a judge on MasterChef because I ain't a chef. I ain't an authority on cooking, so without an experience-based evidence base, I probably shouldn't be making calls on cooking competitions. The same applies to first-person shooter games. If somebody is performing above a level of skill that you can comprehend exists, but is still technically possible, then you probably don't have the authority to make a call that they are in fact cheating. Battlefield is a game that when it's good, has one of the best skill curves you can find in gaming within its gunplay. It's the perfect mix of accessibility and challenge that requires mastery to leverage at the peak of its powers. Battlefield is also a game, given the sense of scale and just the general chaos it invites, is a bit of a playground for players of higher skill to run rampant in because, well, they feed off the confusion and the chaos alongside their skills. I've done plenty of videos in the past that speak to the importance of skill curves in games more broadly, but having mechanics and having skill curves in games like this, like first-person shooters and like Battlefield more specifically, actually adds to the longevity of a game and the sense of belonging that one can achieve in a game because they can watch themselves get better at it. They can see material improvements in their gameplay, they can see ways in which they can leverage the game's mechanics to perform better over the average Joe, and that is why such games like Battlefield are very attractive to players who sit in the upper echelons of skill as well, because it gives them those goals to chase within the chaos, a means of progression that also demonstrates rewards and result for climbing those skill curves accordingly. And with Battlefield 6 being relevant and of interest to the whole bloody first-person shooter community right now, we are going to see it catch the attention of some absolute freaks of nature who are legit, but also are well beyond the skills that we've seen within the 99th percentile of the player base in Battlefield to date. And to be frank here, we have players like this already in the Battlefield community to a lesser extent. They've been around for a very long time, and the reception that they've also received from many parts of the Battlefield community is also not new. There have been countless cases of top-tier Battlefield players getting death threats, doxed, stream sniped to the point where they give up on the game entirely. Once again, typically coming from players who simply don't really hold the educated understanding of what is possible in a game like this, because they're just so happy sitting at their respective comfort level, jumping in and fragging out for a bit. It follows the quintessential players who are worse than me are noobs, but those who are better than me are hackers mentality, only it's been weaponized and pointed in a direction that actually sees consequences occurring. And given that this is not the first time we've seen issues like this in the Battlefield community, but it's also now expanding well beyond the Battlefield community and has sort of hit a global stage, I think it's a problem that we really need to address and try and uplift as a gaming community here, because it's toxic as shit, in my opinion. I'm with you guys. I hate cheaters as much as the next person. Don't get me wrong here. But when somebody uploads their footage of gameplay, and yes, it may look a little suspicious, you've always got to take it as well with a grain of salt, because there are people who do have thousands upon thousands of hours into aim trainers. People who have spent the better part of their life trying to perfect their craft because, well, it's what they want to do and maybe they have been graced by a touch of the tism and it's what they can do. There is always an upper echelon of skill that is beyond the comprehension to the average person. Yes, there is the inner delusion in all of us that believes that we can either land a plane or drive an F1 car to the same degree that Lewis Hamilton can. But we can't, because the moment we do get into that sort of thing, we're going to wreck the vehicle in a friggin' heartbeat because we don't have the reaction time, the sense, the training to manipulate such a vehicle. And whether people like it or not, there are people out there who are coming to the Battlefield community now, checking out the Battlefield 6 open beta, who are at the highest of tiers of echelon in skill out there. And people who we know are legit are also pulling stuff off like this in Battlefield as well. Baranox, Enders, Focused Battlefield, Silk in the jet gameplay, and even on infantry, the dude's a weapon. Ash BF, and then you extend the scope even further to, you know, people outside of the Battlefield community. You've got It's Timmy in Apex Legends, Shroud just in general. I mean, half of the Counter-Strike Pro League is also pulling off absolutely diabolical stuff that, you know, to the uneducated would probably look like someone's hacking. But they're not. And the Battlefield community, as of late, has been very quick to jump to those sorts of conclusions because, hey, someone's better at me, they're an insanely talented player, they've got incredible accuracy, tracking, flick shots, they must be hacking. When, quite frankly, 99% of the time, that just ain't true. And I think this situation in particular, and some of the situations we've seen lately in the Battlefield community, really illustrates a need to simmer the fuck down a little bit. But that is just one man's view on the internet, guys, and if you enjoyed today's video, then I would greatly appreciate a backhanding like button. I also welcome some level-headed debate in the comment section down below. I understand this may get heated, but I'm not going to let that happen. My YouTube analytics tell me that majority of you guys here are adults, so be adults. But more Battlefield 6 content coming very, very shortly, guys, so make sure you subscribe for that as well. But in the meantime, take care, and I'll see you guys all in the next one. Peace out, guys. Have a good one.